Have you ever looked into her eyes and felt a storm you couldn't name? A sweetness that dulled your caution? A gaze that made you forget the edge of your own sword? Brother, this is not poetry. This is design. This is the precise architecture of something ancient, something that does not seek your understanding, only your reaction. There is a realm of knowledge that modern man has abandoned, not because it is false, but because it is too costly to know, too dangerous to carry, too disruptive to comfort. Socrates did not avoid this knowledge, no. He walked into it with deliberate steps, unafraid of what it might reveal. And what he discovered was not a hatred of women, as many misunderstood, but a difficult, lasting truth about them, one that still haunts and stalks the soul of man today. He warned, not with bitterness, not with scorn, but with fire-tempered reason. He said that where men are forged by clarity, by logic, by deliberate structure, women are formed in layers of smoke, not illusion but subtlety, not deception but complexity. He did not say this to degrade, but to awaken. For what is veiled cannot be trusted blindly, and what enchants must first be understood, deeply, consciously, before it consumes you. Have you ever been so captivated that you forgot to ask why? The men of Athens laughed at him. The jurors condemned him, yet he smiled in the face of their ignorance because he knew. A man who understands a woman only as she appears and not as she functions is like a soldier seduced by the shimmer of his enemy's blade. Beautiful, yes, but fatal. Socrates taught in questions, and now those questions echo louder than ever. So ask yourself, why does she desire power in the shadows rather than in the spotlight? Why is her affection so often woven with strategy? Why does her silence carry more weight than her words? If you do not ask, you will not see, and if you do not see, you will kneel. Not out of love, not out of devotion, but out of delusion. In the Republic, Socrates described the just soul, balanced, ruled by reason, not enslaved by appetite or impulse. A noble aspiration. But what of a man who builds his life around a woman whose nature he does not understand? That man is not building a soul. He is building a shrine to confusion, a monument to chaos. He spoke of the tyrant's soul, one ruled by desire, always thirsty, always restless, never still. Gentlemen, how many men today wear the suit of reason, polish their logic like armor, yet remain shackled by the lust for feminine approval? How many build kingdoms not for legacy or honor, but to impress a woman who will not stay once the walls are breached? Understand this, Socrates was not warning you of her. He was warning you, of what lies unexamined within you. When you do not know her nature, she is not your enemy. She is not your savior. She is the test, and every man must pass it or be broken beneath the weight of his own illusions. You were taught to look for beauty, but Socrates knew beauty is the bait. What truly matters is the intention behind it, the purpose it serves, the instinct it conceals. And this, he said, is where men fail. You chase form and forget essence. You pursue her touch and ignore her pattern. You do not study, you fall. And when you fall, she does not catch you. Not because she is cruel, not because she is unkind, but because nature has not designed her to. She selects, she tests, she adapts, but she does not build. That is your burden. That is your curse and your crown. A man, Socrates said, must live examined, not just in public, but in private. That includes your thoughts of her. That includes your needs, your weaknesses, your hunger for validation. If these remain unexamined, she will see what you refuse to and use it, not maliciously, but inevitably. For just as the river does not hate the rock it erodes, the woman does not hate the man she outmaneuvers. She is simply following her nature. Can you blame the storm for its thunder, the flame for its heat? But the real question is, are you following yours? Socrates lived in a city surrounded by men who misunderstood power, who believed it resided in votes, in coins, in the echo of applause. But he knew true power belongs to the man who cannot be deceived, especially by what he loves. That is the beginning. That is the threshold. You were not born to orbit her. You were born to govern yourself. Socrates taught that the unexamined life is not worth living, but he also knew the unexamined desire is even more dangerous. And nowhere is desire more camouflaged than in the realm of women. It wears the mask of devotion. It sings like truth. It dances like destiny. But it answers to something far deeper, something older. Survival, selection, instinct. You call it love, she calls it timing. In Phaedrus, Socrates warns that love, if not governed by reason, becomes a kind of madness. Divine perhaps, yes, but madness still. He tells us that the soul pulled by lust becomes like a wingless creature, crawling in circles, obsessed with the source of its appetite. How many men live inside that loop today? How many have sacrificed their mission, their values, their very sovereignty? For what? For a fleeting glance, for a dopamine fix in a soft voice, for the comfort of a warm body. You are not here to be devoured by the feminine. You are here to understand it. This distinction is vital, because misunderstanding it has broken more men than failure ever could. Socrates observed that while men are drawn toward truth, seeking it, suffering for it, women are drawn toward alignment. But not alignment with truth, rather with security. This is not a slight against your nature. It is not an insult, nor a diminishment of her power. It is in fact a form of biological brilliance, an adaptive strategy forged over generations of survival. But brilliance, when not recognized, becomes danger. She is not looking for what is righteous. She is looking for what is reliable, what guarantees her safety, what reflects power, stability, and strength in the world she navigates. The truth does not matter to her if it does not secure her future. And in that reality lies the test for the man who dares to lead. Your intellect alone does not move her. Your theories, your philosophies, your clever arguments, none of these are what seduce her. It is your ambition, your unwavering certainty, your dominion over your own reality. These are what captivate her attention. But if you hand her the crown before you've even earned your own, do not be surprised when she refuses to kneel. If you place her above your mission, she will challenge you, not because she is cruel, but because she cannot follow what she does not respect, and respect is not offered where strength is surrendered. What you have shown her is simple, but devastating, that your soul is for sale. Socrates believed the soul had three essential parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. The highest form of man is the one ruled by reason. This is the man who governs himself, who is not led astray by passing desires. But when appetite begins to dominate, whether that appetite is sexual, emotional, or social, the man begins to dissolve. He loses the power to lead. He no longer walks with purpose. He chases, not her, but his hunger for her. You know these men. You've seen them. Men who have no light unless she gives it to them. Men who kneel without even questioning the altar at which they bow. Men who are willing to burn their principles to keep her warm. And if you are not careful, if you do not awaken to your own illusions, you may become one of them. Socrates lived among people who confused volume for wisdom, appearance for virtue, and charm for truth. But he saw through all of it. And when he dared to challenge that illusion, they silenced him. Yet even in death his voice continues. Not for the masses, not for the performative man who mimics strength, but for you, the one man who still dares to see clearly. He saw that women by nature are more attuned to the present, to the emotional now, to the immediate moment, to safety. And meanwhile men carry the terrible weight of foresight. They are burdened, both cursed and blessed, with the task of looking ahead. Your soul aches for legacy. Your bones carry the weight of vision. But vision is costly. It requires solitude, sacrifice, and self-discipline. And the feminine offers a seductive detour, a beautiful distraction from that burden, comfort, warmth, the illusion of peace. She gives you the option to trade your clarity for convenience. You must resist. Your peace must come from principle, not from her permission. Clarity, not compliance, must be your compass. She will test your frame. She will test your conviction. She will mirror your fears, your doubts, your hesitation, reflecting them back to you with uncanny precision. If you do not master yourself, she will master you, not with cruelty, but with instinct. And hers is a refined instinct, a centuries-old skill of sensing weakness, not to destroy, but to sort. Socrates did not teach men to hate the world, but to question it, not to fear confusion, but to bring light to it. So illuminate her, not with suspicion, but with understanding. She is not your anchor. She is the tide. Do you understand the difference? Anchors stabilize, tides shift. She will move. She will pull. You must be grounded. You must become a philosopher of your own instincts, one who examines the pull before answering it. Socrates, in his silence, warned more than in his speech. A man's downfall does not begin with an enemy's blade or the collapse of a nation. It begins with the unchecked desires within his own heart. And of all the desires that haunt a man, none is more deceptive, more quietly ruinous, than his longing for the feminine mystery he does not understand. The tragedy of man is not that he needs her, it's that he doesn't know why he needs her. And in that blindness, he turns her into a goddess, and then curses her when she fails to deliver miracles. The truth? She was never meant to complete you. She was designed to test you. In Gorgias, Socrates tears apart the illusion that pleasure is equal to good, that what feels right must be right. He dismantles the dangerous belief that validation, especially from others, and most dangerously from women, is proof of virtue. What he reveals beneath that illusion is chilling to the modern man. Your endless pursuit of her approval is not noble. It is not a sign of romantic devotion. It is a symptom of your forgotten purpose. You do not need her eyes upon you. You need your own soul to stand upright, steadily, firmly, in the dark. Men today are not collapsing from a lack of strength. They are crumbling under the weight of internal confusion. They know her moods more intimately than they know their own convictions. They quote the lines she likes, but forget the vows they once made to themselves. You think you're being romantic. She thinks you've lost your edge, and she's right. She cannot love what she does not respect, and she does not respect what she can control. What you see as devotion, she interprets as surrender. What you call love, she experiences as imbalance. And in that imbalance, the magnetic pull of masculine presence dissolves. Socrates didn't explain this in today's language. He didn't tweet it. He didn't turn it into a slogan. But the architecture of his thought, the deep scaffolding behind his philosophy, reveals this truth with stunning clarity. He understood harmony not as the sameness of nature, but as each soul fulfilling its rightful role, each element finding its proper order. A woman does not want to lead you. She doesn't crave command. What she longs for is to feel safe under your direction. But when you abdicate that post, when you hand over your leadership, when her emotions become your compass, when her approval becomes your mirror, and her affection becomes your goal, you stop being a man. You become a satellite, a wandering object revolving around her gravity. She might keep you in her orbit, but not out of desire, out of convenience, and convenience has an expiration date. The world is crowded with men who believe they could earn her love by worshiping her. They knelt, they obeyed, they softened. But love is not won through worship. It is won through sovereignty, through the calm, steady reign of a man who governs himself. In Zeno, Socrates asks whether virtue can be taught, but more urgently, he questions whether men can even recognize virtue anymore. That same question must be asked today. Do you know what masculine virtue is? Have you studied it? Can you name it before you offer yourself to her? Or have you blurred the lines, mistaking devotion for discipline, lust for loyalty, submission for love? She doesn't want you broken. She doesn't want you dependent. She doesn't even want you nice. She wants you real. And the real man does not orbit the feminine. He orbits the good, the true, the just. He follows the gravitational pull of eternal principles, and only invites her to walk with him if she can move in harmony with that orbit. When she sees that you live by principle, not persuasion, when your speech is measured, your leadership steady, and your love grounded in self-possession, she follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. You deserved it. This is the paradox Socrates understood. True power does not come from grasping for it. It emerges from being the kind of man who needs no one's validation, especially not hers. The moment you stop chasing her favor and begin seeking your own form, not the form of your body, but the shape of your essence, you become untouchable. Not because you have grown cold, but because you have become whole. Wholeness is the forgotten wealth of man. The temples of ancient Athens were not built for comfort. They stood for virtue. They were carved in marble and measured by the weight of trials. Their shadows stretched across the minds of men who sought not pleasure, but purpose. And in those columns echoed the whispers of Socrates and his kind. Know thyself. Not please her. Not serve her. Not shape yourself into her desire. But know, because in knowing there is strength, and in strength there is peace. Yet most men today are not at peace. They are in conflict, not with her, but with the lie they repeat to themselves, that her love will heal them, that her body will silence their unrest, that her attention will substitute for selfhood. But this is not love. This is intoxication, and every philosopher knows the drunk cannot see the truth. Socrates often spoke of forms, those unchanging ideals that exist behind the shadows of our world. There is a form of womanhood just as surely as there is a form of manhood, but modern men have stopped chasing the form. They run after the shadow, the curve of her hips, the light in her eyes, the perfume on her skin, the posture that promises comfort. They forget to ask the deeper questions. What does this form serve? What does it protect? What does it devour? She is not evil. She is efficient. She is not deceptive. She is adaptive. She is not broken. She is complex. These aren't contradictions. They are the truth most men are too distracted to recognize. She is calibrated for survival, not yours, but hers. She moves through the world like a finely tuned instrument, honed by generations of necessity. Her instincts, sharper than your fantasies. Her decisions, quicker than your declarations of affection. And when your gaze is clouded by lust, by longing, by the soft illusion of romance, she sees what you do not, your weakness. Socrates never spelled this out in direct terms, but it's written between the lines of his dialogues. It echoes in the pauses, the questions left unanswered. You are either governed by reason, or you are governed by desire. There is no third kingdom, no neutral ground, no safe middle. The man who steps into her arms without a map, without philosophy, without self-examination, he does not become free. He becomes lost. He may smile, he may call it love, but beneath the surface, he is drowning. And what becomes of this man? He blames her. He curses the undertow he never trained for. He sinks and points at her as the cause, never once realizing it was his lack of preparation, not her presence, that pulled him under. But the man trained in reason, he does not drown, he sails. The man who interrogates his instincts, who studies his hunger, who unmasks illusion before it seduces him, that man is not fooled. He moves forward with clarity. She will respect him, not because he is harsh, not because he dominates, but because he is clear. In the Symposium, Socrates recounts the teachings of Diotima, a woman who opened his eyes to love, not as indulgence, not as pleasure, but as a sacred ladder. The love of one body is only the first rung. From there it ascends to the love of all beauty, then to the love of wisdom, and finally to the love of the divine. But most men, they never climb. They remain trapped in the sensual. They rot in the pit of pleasure, never stopping to ask what it all points toward. But you, listener, you do not rot, you climb. She is not the destination, she is the beginning of a question. She is not your final chapter, she is the gate, the test, the threshold. She is the wind, but you must be the sail. Your strength is not in overpowering her, it's in outgrowing the need for her to define you. Let her remain a mystery, let her be paradoxical, let her be fully woman, but you must be man in the Socratic sense, measured, examined, enduring, unshaken by flattery, unbroken by rejection, and undistracted by the shimmer of what is temporary. That is your path, that is your calling, and that is your dignity. True dignity is not handed out, it is forged. In the quiet forge of solitude, in the weight of rejection, in the cold clarity of nights where no one is watching and no one is coming to rescue you. That's where Socrates would tell you to build, not in her arms, not in her admiration, but in your own unshakable inner court. The man who depends on her warmth to feel whole does not burn with his own fire. The man who bends his will to preserve her affection will, in time, break. And when he does, she will not pick up the pieces, not out of cruelty, but because her nature will not permit her to. Even she is searching for a man who does not need her but chooses her, a man who sees her clearly for what she is and what she is not. She is not your therapist, she is not your savior, she is not the mirror you should hold up to see if you matter. If you want her to see you, truly see you, then stand where most men never do. Stand in solitude, stand in discipline, stand in mastery, without needing to be seen at all. Socrates said, "The shortest and surest way to live with honor in the world is to be in reality what we would appear to be." And what do most men want to appear to be? Strong, wise, desired, respected. But how many are truly willing to do what it takes to become that man, in reality, not just in image, but in essence? Do not chase her attention, cultivate presence. Do not chase her body, master your appetites. Do not chase her love, offer her your truth, and let her respond however she chooses. This is what Socrates meant by living the examined life, not just examining your thoughts, but your motives. Not just repeating philosophy, but embodying it in posture. Not just knowing what a soul is, but understanding how your soul behaves when it meets beauty, temptation, and rejection. Because that moment, when she tests you, when she pulls away, when she withholds, is not cruelty. It is your sacred trial. It is the arena. It is the proving ground. And it is there that most men collapse. There they fall to their knees and betray their own throne. But not you. You stand. You hold your position. You choose reason over reaction. You know that she is not your enemy. She is not even your obstacle. She is the signal. If her affection shatters your focus, the fracture was already in you. If her silence breaks your spirit, then the silence was always yours. Do not resent her for being what nature made her. Study her, learn her, respect her design, without surrendering to it. She is wind, remember, uncatchable, changeable, wild. She is the breath of nature, free, unbound, without apology. But you are the mast. You are rooted, upright. You do not rage when the wind shifts. You adjust your sail. That is manhood. Not domination, not conquest, but unbreakable orientation, unshakable direction in a world of motion. This is the secret the world will not tell you. This is the truth your schools have edited out, that your soft philosophies have replaced with slogans, that your culture has buried under layers of comforting deception. You've been told to be sensitive, agreeable, compliant, but the ancient path whispered something else. That clarity is greater than charm. That presence is deeper than performance. Socrates never screamed it. He didn't need to. He whispered it through every parable, every paradox, every poisoned cup. Be unshaken. Hold your center, because when you are unshaken, she will feel it, not as fear, but as awe. And in that moment, without needing to be told, she will know, this one cannot be moved. And when she knows you cannot be moved, she will do what her nature demands. She will orbit, not out of submission, out of selection, not as a trophy to your posture, but as a response to your presence. For a woman in her truest, most instinctive form does not fall for a man. She aligns with him. She synchronizes with strength, not sentiment. She mirrors the rhythm of a man who stands still while the world spins. She seeks heat, not from the flame that flickers and dances, but from the one that endures. Socrates would never have begged for her loyalty. He didn't need to. He became the man to whom loyalty is a natural response, because he understood the ancient hierarchy of energies. That which is grounded governs what is fluid. That which is still directs what is in motion. And you, man, you are not meant to chase water with empty hands. You are meant to build a channel, set a boundary, and let it flow. The modern world tells you otherwise. It instructs you to submit to her moods, soothe her storms, and adjust yourself to her tides. But in doing so, it demands that you betray the one law carved into your very bones. Do not bend, unless bending is your will. Because once you start folding to win her affection, to win her favor, you will fold again and again, until there is nothing left of you but a shadow of a man, a memory of who you were before you started breaking yourself to be loved. There is no balance where self-betrayal becomes the currency of love. There is no intimacy without integrity. You want to know the kind of man a woman cannot leave. It's not the wealthiest, not the most charming, not even the most articulate. It's the man who could walk away and still be whole. Because the moment she senses that you can't walk away, that your sense of self is tethered to her presence, that your light flickers when her attention fades, she knows you are no longer fire at all. You are a candle, flickering, fragile, and in time, forgettable. But the man who holds his line, who keeps smiling through rejection, who presses forward in his mission regardless of her mood or movements, that man becomes gravity. She cannot help but feel him. Even if she runs, she will feel the pull. Even if she resists, the rhythm will call her back. Socrates knew this. He didn't just teach it, he lived it. While others wasted breath in empty debates, he dismantled illusion. While others chased applause, he pursued alignment with what is true. And nothing is more true than this. A man's essence must be unmoved by the approval of others, especially by the one he desires most. Because she will test you, she must. Not to destroy your core, but to locate it. When she raises her voice, do you crumble? When she withholds affection, do you chase? When she threatens to leave, do you abandon your direction? No. These are not arguments, these are examinations. And every time you fail them, she loses faith. Not because you are bad, not because you are unworthy, but because you have shown her that your kingdom is built on sand, and no woman, no matter how loving, can trust a man who needs her more than he stands for himself. You think the pain of rejection is punishment, but it's not. The pain is an invitation to rise, to refine, to become the kind of man who can love without losing himself, who can lead without dominating, who can feel deeply without falling apart. This is not stoicism in its shallow, emotionless form. This is sovereignty. It is masculinity stripped of addiction. It is presence without dependence. It is the soul of Socrates, calm, composed, and impossible to control. And that, brothers, is the beginning of love that does not enslave. You were not made to kneel at the altar of affection. You were made to stand at the gates of truth and guard them with your life. This is what Socrates taught. not in slogans, but in sacrifice, not in speeches, but in death. In his final hour, he chose death over dishonor, silence over compromise, truth over comfort. And what is that truth for you today? It is this: you must not fear her nature, nor try to rewrite it. You must master your own. The woman is not the battlefield. She is the mirror, the test, the tension that reveals your fault lines. She is the unseen pressure point that exposes the places where your soul is still soft, still unguarded, and most men fail, not because they are weak, but because they were never taught the truth, that the feminine is not here to complete your soul. She is here to challenge it, not to soothe you, but to shape you, not to comfort you, but to confront you. And if you embrace that truth, if you lean into the discomfort rather than running from it, she becomes something greater. She becomes the forge, the sacred fire in which your old self is burned away and something stronger is forged in its place. But if you resist it, if you demand ease and simplicity, if you ask her to be less than what nature made her, she becomes the flame that burns you. And you will mistake her power for punishment instead of invitation. Do not ask her to be simpler, become wiser. Do not ask her to stay, become the man she does not want to leave. Do not ask her to heal your wounds. Heal yourself so completely that your scars become scripture-etched, reminders of what you've survived and what you've chosen to become. In the end, Socrates gave no commandments. He issued no dogma. He offered no laws written in stone. Instead, he asked questions. Questions sharp enough to pierce the illusion. Questions that stripped away every mask, that awakened the soul, that exposed the lies we wrap ourselves in for comfort. And if you are bold enough to walk that path, to live by question rather than assumption, you will lose things, you will lose illusions, you will lose addictions, you will lose entitlement. But what you gain in return is everything. You gain clarity, the rarest virtue in an age of endless noise. You gain calm, the deep kind, the stillness that cannot be bought, shaken, or manipulated. You gain power, not over others, not to dominate or control, but over yourself. And in mastering yourself, you will have already conquered the world. Let them call you cold. Let them say you are distant. Let them whisper that you are too logical, too composed, too firm. Let them. These are the cries of a world that fears men who cannot be bent, because such men are immune to trends. They are unmoved by emotional manipulation. They do not betray themselves for the comfort of approval. They do not fall to temptation. They do not trade their soul for a kiss. They stand, not because standing is easy, but because falling is no longer an option. And in that stance you become more than just a man, you become a beacon, a signal in the dark. Other men will see you, and in that moment something ancient will stir in them. They will remember who they were meant to be, and from your stand a ripple will move outward, quiet but unstoppable. So, to you, the man listening in silence, in reflection, in that ancient ache that only the wise feel, I say this: rise. Rise without rage. Rise without apology. Rise without fear. Not in opposition to or not in rebellion against the feminine, but for yourself, for the man inside you who was never taught how to stand. Do not run from her tests. Do not resent her power. Meet it with something greater, with your own unshakable being. That is the masculine answer. That is the deeper way. And when you do, when you no longer react, when you no longer need, the game ends. The illusions dissolve. The soul ascends. This message is not for the masses. It was never meant to go viral. It is for the few, the seekers, the builders, the kings without crowns who have not forgotten the fire, the ones who still remember the weight of honor, the ones who know the value of a clear mind in a chaotic world. If you've felt the truth in these words, share them. Let them echo. Like, subscribe, donate, not to support me, but to support the truth. because men everywhere are starving for it, dying quietly from the lack of it. And if you've been fed, feed others. Let this be the beginning of your return, not to dominance, but to discernment. The world does not need louder men, it needs clearer ones, men of stillness, men of wisdom, men who cannot be shaken. Be that man, and walk forward unshaken.